It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
All right, this next question, Brian, is from Seth. Seth said, and we touched this, but we didn't hit it. We didn't hit it very hard on this show. I've always heard that there are some advantages to do with charitable giving. What are they, and when do they become appropriate in the financial journey? There are two that immediately stick out to me, Brian. I'm thinking donor-advised funds and QCDs. Those are the ones that like immediately I think about. I think it'd be really interesting to just talk about how charitable giving works with, and then even how that affects your investing strategy, right? Because I know you do sort of a unique thing there.
Yeah. First of all, being charitable, I think, is a step zero of the financial order of operations. I mean, Bo, I've learned a lot from you on this, and Thanks, the fact that I think it's one of those things. I know when you're starting out, maybe you're a brand new, aspirational financial mutant. You don't have a lot of money. You're starting your career out. At least be generous with your time. Figure out a way if you don't have the resources you can do. But then I do hope that people will, as you start creating success and you're getting those new pay raises, that a portion of those pay raises is also going to increase what you're giving. Because I do think there's something to being very selfless. If you can, because you'll see money doesn't. A lot of people think that money is the answer to all their problems. We've done some of our most popular content has been on the dark side of wealth, because I think a lot of people put faults. They think that this is going to, it's going to fix everything. If you can create things in your life that show, the tie into the eternal, it's better to give than to receive, and you see how powerful being selfless is, it will work out. Now let's get nerdy. I love that our government has incentivized being creative with the way you give resources, and they want to encourage this. And you realize the tax policy is written in a lot of ways to incentivize behaviors. You see this with home ownership, and charity is no exception. You see where, look, if you give an appreciated asset, meaning that you bought something for $5,000 and now it's worth $20,000, and you give that to a charity, the government does this unique thing where they say, okay, we're going to give you the tax deduction off of that $20,000. That $15,000 worth of gain, just nobody pays the tax on that. Right. It just kind of, voila, it's gone. You don't pay taxes on it. Your charity gets the great benefit of you get the deduction off of it, and the charity gets to make use of those resources because they're not paying taxes on that either. That's a win-win situation. What I've paired with, and this is what Bo is alluding to, is that for my own personal giving, I use a donor-advised fund. I use the one at Fidelity. That's not an endorsement. I'm just sharing what I use. Sure. Is that what I like about it is that every month when I give to charity, I'm also pairing that with my dollar cost averaging of every month. I'm also putting money back into that account. So what that does is it lets me take advantage of all that appreciation, the win-win situation I described, where I'm taking a deduction on stuff that's appreciated 50, 60, even 100%, not paying the capital gains on that, but taking the full tax deduction for it. Meanwhile, but since I'm replenishing, putting money in every month, I'm over time also pushing up my tax basis, so that if I ever needed to get access to that money, it's going to come at a much lower cost to me from a tax perspective. It's really a win-win financial mutant strategy to give. And also, I pair this with loss harvesting and other things. There's all kind of great strategies you can do once you reach a level of success that you can do these type of financial mutant things. And then, Bo, you mentioned QCDs. Qualified charitable distributions. This is something that the government came out with a few years ago. We know that the country is getting older and we have required minimum distributions. And a lot of people, you have this money that's required by the government once you reach age 72 that you have to take distributions on, but you don't really need the money for retirement. A lot of you, we take the required minimum distributions, we put it in your joint account, you just reinvest it, but you just paid the taxes to the government. The government said, hey, we have this. Wouldn't it be nice if we once again incentivize people to use some of these resources to better the world, the country, whatever your causes are, so you can take a portion of your required annual distribution, your RMD, send it directly to your charity of choice. once again, now you don't pay you don't have to recognize that portion of your RMD on your annual income tax return. Now you don't get a deduction because it went directly. You don't get a tax deduction on your itemized deduction.
Giving.
But that's okay because most people, especially once you're retired, you don't itemize anyway. You're taking the standard deduction. So you're like, well, wait a minute. If you don't get the tax deduction, you only got to avoid the taxes on the distribution, on the gains or the ordinary income. What's the benefit here? For retirees, as you get older and you retire, you're on Medicare. And Medicare, they base your premiums. Your premiums are based upon how much your annual income is. That's important. Your Social Security, how much is taxable, is based upon what your income is. And maybe one of your biggest sources of income is your required minimum distributions. Doing a QCD strategy is a great way to kind of work through all those things.
The only thing I'm going to add on here, just very, very quickly, you just said something beautiful, right? Standard deductions are so high now. It's like 12,000 something and 25,000 something for couples. It's pretty high. So a lot of folks who give, they may not like be hitting those thresholds. Like if you're an individual and you give $10,000 a year, I'm making up a number here, you might not itemize unless you have other deductions go with that. One of the great things that charitable giving funds will allow you to do is you can do what we call bi-year or intra-year grouping.
You can stack it.
You can stack it where maybe every other year I contribute $20,000 from my portfolio into the charitable giving fund, and then I disperse those funds over the next 24 months. Because you get the deduction the day the money goes into the fund, but you can send it out to your respective organizations on whatever timeline you like. So we have a lot of like couples that maybe they give $12,000, $15,000 a year. That by itself won't allow them to itemize, but instead we'll have them give $24,000, $30,000 every 2 years. So that coupled with, state taxes and mortgage interest and all that stuff will allow them to itemize every other year. It's just a means to let you capitalize on that charitable giving that you're doing anyways.
And for wealthier clients, I love that it lets you spread out because the charities, sometimes if you dump big chunks of money on them all at once, I know this is rich people problems, but if you're giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars, like you sold a business or something like that, the churches and your charitable organizations sometimes, they'll take it. No, they're not going to say no to it, but it might be not bad to also spread it out over time on the distribution as well.